What's going on, everyone? It's Greg back with some more Watcher of Realms, and we are joined today by Fasty. And let me go ahead and let him introduce himself.
How the heck are you guys? My name is Fastidious. I love this game and I'm really excited to be here.
Thanks for joining me, man. Make sure you guys all go check out his channel. He has some really great free to play perspective. So, a lot of content, very free to play friendly. You know, a lot of us that are spending a few more diamonds, a little bit of money, we can't exactly connect that well with the free to play, and he does that quite well, which brings us to our discussion today, which are the important benefits, differences, all that jazz between free to play and pay to win. What are our different perspectives? All right, before we get into our main points, let me just say we did do a video as well on Fasty's channel. Make sure you go check that out. I'll have a card popping down. It'll be in the description as well. And so let's go ahead. Fasty, can you kick us off with our first point today?
Happily. Exactly how Beard said it, man. We can both enjoy the game as pay to win, as free to play. We can respect each other, but it is undeniable that we're going to have very different perspectives. So where better to start, I think, let me head into the summoning portal, than pulls, right? So as you guys can see, I have 35 pulls on my account. 35 currently I have summoning crystals to use on my account. Excuse me. Not even enough diamonds for a 10 pull. I will say that is because I buy huge stamina potions like an absolute madman. But that's something we'll talk about later on in the video, actually. But if you go here to how many pulls I've ever done, I haven't even done 500, and I am on day 26. So if you want to transition into where you stand on your account, Beard, might be a little different, right?
Yeah, so I do think I started on day one. I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, right now, full disclosure, I mean, I'm not sharing my screen, but I did get the content creator rewards. They are very generous. That does help give a push. So, like, don't think I'm sitting here spending bukus of money. I do pick up some of the best, the good value packages here and there. But like, so I'm pretty much ready for the upcoming banner. I probably have like about 30. I got 35 rare shards right now, 15k diamonds
Ooh la la.
ready to go. So yeah, I'm ready, and I do have a little bit of a wider roster than yourself.
Absolutely. And I will say, interesting point on my account if you're not familiar. So I do focus 100% on free-to-play content, but we are about to do a transition. So I don't even know if you knew this, Beard. So my goal was to do a free-to-play series with daily videos and then tons of guides and other stuff for everybody. But until we got Volca, and we did get Volca on halfway through day 19, and I said once that point came, I wouldn't spend money, but I will accept my content creator rewards. So maybe I will know what it's like to have 15,000 diamonds as well. Seems nice.
That's great, man. I think you will come to learn some of the pains that come with it as well.
Okay. Well, to talk about pulls, and the key word of this video, as Beard said, is going to be perspective. I think there's no better way than to talk about two specific heroes. One hero who, believe it or not, I was very excited to pull, and then one hero who you will very easily believe Beard was excited to pull, and he's not just pulled her, he's pulled her 3 times. But let's not talk about the good stuff first. Let's talk about the weird stuff. So I popped open my hero roster here. So we hear a lot about mages, AoE mages. I don't have any AoE mages on my account, except for some starter ones like Voltus, and then the very weird crowd control AoE mage I have one damage dealing one, and that is going to be Osiren. So a lot of us might have gotten Osiren in the, what was it, the Special Treasures in the Deep event. That was a reward that you could buy in the shop there for that Captain Reeve event. But a lot of you might not have, because he's not that amazing. He's got the most basic kit in the game. In a game with many cool kits, I'll just show you his kit. He's like the baby boring Zealous. So he's got a ground effect that deals AoE, that's about it. Less damage to airborne units. Then he does extra damages to targets with less HP, fine. And then he's got an ultimate that, believe it or not, downs ground effect AoE in front of him with less damages to airborne units. He's not bad, but he's certainly not good. And I don't know if you're gonna believe me, but I was thrilled when I pulled him. I've pulled him 3 times now, so I was a little less thrilled the second and third time. But he changed my account because he's the only AoE mage I have on my entire account. I don't know. Do you use Osiren a lot, Beard?
Man, I did my review on the event shop, and I said, do not buy him.
Yeah.
I felt like no one should buy him. And I think that you kind of show a good point there. Like, even everyone's going to have bad luck, whether you're pay to win, free to play. Everyone has some bad luck. And there's different things that are going to help different people's accounts. So that's a very good perspective because, I mean, if Osiren helped you, he helped you.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think down the road, you're not going to use him. But
I will not. Honestly, I barely use him now. But to talk about the other side of the coin, but that's just perspective, right? I'm not saying trying to crap on Osiren, my language. I'm just trying to say he's something you can get excited about when you have that free perspective mentality, a free-to-play mentality. However, I just pulled up Beard's account, as you guys can see, and he's got not just Virna, but an Awakened level 2 Virna. So, I mean, I'll let you take it, but let's try to imagine and now listen to what Beard's going to say about what his experience would be like pulling Osiren when you've got someone like an Awakened 2 Virna.
Yeah, that's the thing. When that event came out, I had Virna, I had Comet, you know, had Iona, plenty of good mages. There's absolutely no reason to pull in any other mages. So that's kind of how it is. I think the funny thing with Virna is I stressed a few people out because, you know, when I got the pull in the third one, I was getting upset. Like, I'm like, okay, you know what? I want Silas. I don't want Virna. And that's really the whole perspective thing. It's like, I want things that are going to advance my account. And Silas would have helped me a lot more than getting an extra copy of Virna.
Of course.
So, yeah, I wasn't not mad to get the legendary, but hey, I wanted Silas. I was a little bit disappointed to get that awakening too, but it is what it is.
That's actually a great transition as we finish up this first point into the second point. To wrap this up, the way we had the idea for this entire video was I was watching Beard had a great video when he was pulling his ancient summons, which I only had like 9 of, and you had like 40 or 50, I think. But he pulled so many epic lords, like almost every epic lord in the game. And every time, rightfully so, he wasn't that excited because he's got legendary lords. He's got a crazy account. But I remember if people had been on my stream, where is it? Where are we looking? Where's Infernal? There's Infernal. I was like, the only thing I want today is Pyros. If I just pull a Pyros, I'll be so happy. I want Pyros. I want Pyros. And then I'll be honest, I was kind of one of those people being like, come on, man. Because he pulled Pyros and he was just like, all right, cool, click.
Well, I think once you have someone like you're trying to advance your account, you are kind of getting into those more specific things. And like now, there's only like 2 epics I'm missing, so now pulling epics is kind of getting a bit boring.
For sure. And I'll say that maybe is a benefit. Like as you guys said, we put it in quotes, but the benefits of being free to play is you can still get excited about good things, not just the best things. So you want to take the second point there?
Yeah. So let's move into like kind of like the strategy aspect of it. I think that there's something we kind of talked about, you know, ahead of time is like the challenges between free to play and pay to win. I think they're just kind of put on different levels. And so as you know, you're doing more pools, of course you have more heroes to work with. You can formulate different strategies and things like that. At the same time, maybe it's a little bit more challenging, a little more gratifying when as a free to play, you only have these units and you figured out a way to beat something. Maybe you have some experience with that, Fasty. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head. Like, I think strategy is probably the coolest place in the game. With a game like this, between free to play and pay to win, I think you can have an equally good but very different time with it. So like with pay to win, it's about how high of really amazing end game, because we're still at the beginning of global, right? For us on global, it's like most people aren't farming 21, so you have that to look forward to. Like, how do I finally beat gear raid 119? How do I push towards gear raid 121? That's really exciting strategy to engage in, and what are the perfect meta teams that I can create? But then there's my perspective, the free-to-play perspective, which is meta teams are not something I'm ever going to be able to think about for a while. I can just try to think of like optimal creative strategies. So for me, that is really fulfilling. And hopefully, you know, a few months from now, I'll be in the position that I think Beard is in now, where he gets to kind of think in that way. But like for me, like for example, when I cleared a hard campaign, the final boss against Calypso, H814, like, we did not really have like the standard heroes for it, but it was really fun. I did it live on stream, like collaboratively with the viewers. Beard was even there in the chat, I think, to kind of collaboratively figure out how are we going to pull this off with this kind of ragtag team, you know?
Yeah, I think that was funny too, because when I was in that stream, I had checked and I'm like, oh, you know what? I hadn't beat hard 814 yet, and I'm like, I was sitting there watching it, and I'm like, let me see what I can do. And then I like beat it in like 5 minutes. Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to say nothing because I don't want you to feel bad.
See, but that's where it's like, I'm glad you actually said that, because I was going to be like, and he hasn't. It's not that he didn't beat it because he couldn't beat it. He didn't beat it because it's like, actually, this is the perfect transition into our next point of goals and what you plan to do. Because for him, he doesn't need to have this goal of clearing hard campaign. What's the rush to go get a couple extra summons? For him, it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like, let's push the absolute ultimate endgame raid content and things like that, right?
Yeah, so I'm kind of in that phase right now. I'm really farming gear, like, so doing like 50, 60, 70 runs at a time, and, you know, throwing out 95% of the gear, trying to find those, you know, prime pieces to really push into.
You got to get those goated pieces.
Yeah, I got to push into 20 and 21, and then Void Rift. Oh my gosh, Void Rift. That Void Rift is like so end game.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm struggling so hard pushing through hard. I've spent so many hours. I got to go through so much footage to actually like pull together my guides for the ones when I finally beat them. I did the same thing you did with 814. I've been doing it Void Rift. Like,
Well, actually,
crazy.
now I'm about to do the same thing that you did with 814 with Void Rift. That's so funny because we did live on stream beat normal, which was really hard for me and I was really happy with. But once I heard how hard it was when you were telling me how hard is for you, how difficult hard is for you, and then Ivy said the same thing to me and I saw her video about it, I was like, you know what? That's not a goal of mine right now. Let's focus on other stuff. Whereas for you, that's a great goal. Tackle that now. So just basically you're kind of on a different timeline, right? When you like plan for things and you try to set yourself up.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing about the game is that there's such that wide range of difficulty that there is something for everyone. Like a lot of games get really stale really quick for whales and krakens and things like that. And I think krakens it'll probably get stale for the quickest, obviously, but there is still that level of challenge across the board for everybody.
Actually, if you don't mind, to tease the other video that we did on my account, we talked about the things we love and hate about this game. So worth checking out, I think. But one of the things is like the gameplay is really fresh right now, but is it going to get stale if we run out of things? So like people love to poo-poo, if we could use that word, poo-poo Raid Shadow Legends, right? But one thing Raid Shadow Legends has, it's an old game. It's been out for like 4 years now, right? Since 2018, so almost 5 years. They've got so much content, man. Like if you're a new player, you don't need to worry about, am I going to run out of things to do? One thing we got to think about with this game is, our Kraken's going to run out of stuff. I'll shout out one more game if you don't mind, Eternal Evolution. I am 100% free to play in that game. At one point, I considered spending money. I'm so happy I didn't because I'm already out of content, free to play, because they weren't putting out content fast enough, and now that game is about to die, like officially, let's be honest. If you're familiar, you know that.
Yeah.
Every server, I'm fourth. I'm fourth on my server. I'm a free-to-play player. Have I min-maxed like a champion? I sure think so. But do I deserve to be fourth on my server? Fourth? No, because the game ran out of content. So we got to hope in terms of goals and how, you know, people like Beard or then the Krakens above him, how they're going to keep staying entertained. They got to make sure they keep doing things like Void Rift, right? And keep putting out fun, engaging content for not just the lower level players, the low spenders, the free-to-play spenders, but you got, I mean, the Krakens and the whales, these are the lifebloods of the game. We got to make sure there's content for everyone, and then content that's aspirational for us, like months or hopefully years from now.
Yeah, and I do think that the tower defense aspect of the game, I know a lot of people don't like to, you know, some people shy away from it, but I think that aspect of this and still having that, the character building and things like that, the number of different things you can do with strategy gives them a lot of opportunity to be able to bring fresh content. And so hopefully they latch into that and it goes strong.
Just to name drop one more game, Arknights is the only Gacha game I've ever played that was tower defense, and there were things I didn't like with the game. They were amazing at that. So the way we just, guys, if you've been playing for a few weeks, if you saw the what was it? The Tides event, what was it called? The Captain Reeves event, the Rolling Tides or Tides in the Deep, something like Treasures in the Deep. That's Treasure. There it is. We found it. They had events like that all the time, and you saw that one scaled up to like stage 6. So they did a really similar thing, and they also did a cool thing, which I'd love to see in this game, was you could clear content and apply buffs to your team. So we kind of would all do the same thing, but you'd get more points and achieve higher levels the less buffs you did. And then at some point you could even take debuffs to hinder your account. So even like the craziest Krakens in that game, they could keep pushing content and making it as hard as possible and then getting rewarded for it. So in tower defense specifically, that's a really, really cool thing to do. So we might all work with the same difficult map, but then you can scale the difficulty by having these different parameters you put on it. So I'd love to see that introduced in this game to fit in the idea of like making sure that from a pay-to-win perspective or from like a really competitive perspective, you have these lofty goals you can always aspire for.
Yeah, so before we transition to our last point, one thing I wanted to bring up, because that was a good point, and one thing I wanted to say, especially from a free-to-play perspective, is I don't think too many people pay much attention to the Pantheon, and I think that that's a huge aspect to this game, and even for free-to-play in terms of building up over time. Yeah, maybe you won't get all the characters, but you also have to keep in mind that as you build up that Pantheon as well, it's going to tremendously help in content and pushing that in-game content. So there's like, while there are seems to be some hard blockers in the game, they aren't like long lasting because we're building up this Pantheon, we're building up our overall stats of our entire account and being able to progress and hit those goals.
Yeah, and I will quickly say, you guys might have just seen when I clicked onto Pantheon, and that was like, I got my daily chest. I hadn't clicked on it yet. In my defense, we're only a couple hours in the game. However, even more in my defense, I usually do Pantheon not during the night of that day. I do it right when I wake up in the morning before reset my time, because I want to make sure I can push the absolute maximum in Pantheon. And just a bit of a tangent here, but the best free-to-play tip I would give, or one of the best, is faction trials. You can clear so much higher than you think So if I go in here, I'm actually already farming stage 7, which is the most efficient stage for the basic trial until you get to the purple insignias, which a lot of us aren't even at yet. So don't be discouraged, guys. Like exactly what Beard said, push that Pantheon, because this is kind of like a rising tide that can lift you and lift all of us as we keep investing, because these bonuses are like nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and jump into like the competitive piece of it. And I think we have a little bit different perspective here. I think that the PvP that they have in right now is honestly kind of trash.
What are you talking about? It's so amazing. It's so engaging.
The idea behind it is not bad. I think the issue right now that I have is the number of bots in there. But
preach.
For the balance wise, I think for the free to play to pay to win aspect, I think it's very it's quite balanced in terms of, okay, yeah, free to play is not going to hit those top things, get those top achievements, but you can hit the overlord rank and maintain overlord rank, because honestly they have so many bots in there. There's a strategy, and I'll have some content in the future. I'm sure you'll put some content on that in the future. Arena is interesting to say the least. We have some other things coming in the future. Guild versus guild is being tested.
That's gonna be awesome,
the Forerunner server. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a great addition. And I don't know, what are some other aspects you think of with PvP?
I actually have a fight going on that I set up while you're talking, so we'd all have something to look at. I think this is actually an amazing moment in PvP, because you guys know we have the 4 different themes of it. I'm just going to try. There's anti-air, single target, sustained damage, AoE, and oh my god, what was the last one? Aerial, right? So aerial, single target, sustained, and AoE. So right now we have single target, which is definitely my best. So as you guys see, this is kind of where the free to play perspective comes into play. When you have a roster like Beard, you can really push Overlord and stay there because you might be good at all content. I'm really only very good where I could consider pushing Overlord in this. So if you guys look, I've got a great 4-person nightmare faction thing. I haven't even had to deploy a healer yet. This guy doesn't stand a chance on the other side. That was actually my friend Vikes. I did a takeover for him. That's very funny. Sorry, buddy. I'm wiping the floor with you. But yeah, that's kind of like how the perspective is. You can't, as a free-to-play, or at least unless you're really lucky and you have a really diverse account, which is something I really like about this game. Because there are these specific roles you have to fill. Like you need this kind of fighter, or you need this kind of mage, or this kind of marksman, or from everything. It takes you a really long time without doing lots of summons to fill out that roster. So I always have something to aspire for. So even though I can do very well in single target, I really struggle in AoE. Anyone that's seen any of my streams, I'm terrible at it, but I don't even mind, right? Because if I was amazing at everything right away, it'd be different. But then maybe you want to pick this up here, Beard. It's a bit different for you because you can kind of, I guess, quite literally afford or have the perspective of, let me just kick butt in all the aspects, which is also a really cool way to approach it and a really cool way for things to be, I think.
And see, I think that's like a big misconception as well, because
is it? Okay.
Granted, like, yeah, I think my roster is, definitely more expansive, but I still lack some key heroes, and that's kind of one of my complaints, when pulling, because it's like you got to be way up there pulling.
That's actually such a good point, man.
Everything.
Let me actually just show you guys something.
I struggle.
Yeah, and I can imagine. I wish it was AoE to really prove this point, but I think it will be similar right now. So guys, if you didn't know, you should. How do I get to top heroes? Where's that button? Here you go, popular heroes. So you can see here, if right now I'm in platinum, right? So you can see it's a bit different because we're all kind of a little more normal, but in Overlord, that's where you get lots of the bots, but especially the best whales. So you can see, guys, 90.99% of people are using Salazar. So basically, and then Hatsit. So you get to a point where it's like, do you have one of these 2 or 3 champions? No, you lose. So that's where, yeah, we're kind of, you're right. I didn't even think about it that way, but you're 100% right. We're kind of fighting up the same hill. Because like say it was AoE. I wish I could show it. Oh, we can. Amazing, cool. I didn't know you could do that. Let's look at AoE Overlord. Virna, Hatsit, Comet, Morgan, Venoma. What are we talking about there? Virna, maybe the best AoE DPS in the game, definitely mage. She's insanely good for this because when you get under that under 35% threshold, it's just insta-kill. It's kind of a hack for arena. Hatsit, probably the best arena champion in the game. She's just good at all of it. Comet, maybe the other best AoE DPS mage. And then who are Morgan and Venoma? Well, simply put, Morgan buffs Virna, Venoma buffs Comet, and that's it. So I've talked to some of the most advanced players in my Discord server, and the ones that have Comet and have Virna and have Hatsit are loving it, and the ones that have amazing accounts with BP through the roof, 2 million, but have somehow missed on those, well, I mean, you can maybe elaborate. That is a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, I don't have Hatsa, and
oh my god,
hopefully I can pick her up this weekend. But I have to avoid those teams. Like, yeah, that's where the strategy comes in, and I love that. I love kind of where we're going with this because maybe this gives us another opportunity in the future because I'd love to kind of maybe work with you on some of the arenas and see if we can think because there's a lot of little cheese things
For
too, and I
sure.
think that maybe free
Shout
to
out to
play
Mari.
aren't just yeah
Cheese
yeah
queen.
Mari like I made it to Overlord with in anti-air with the slow strat.
Yeah.
I never had the DPS to beat anybody, and I simply got there with the slow
Dude,
strat.
attack speed on
Um,
Amari and Theowin. Next thing you know, pretty good
yeah,
stuff.
and so yeah, like it's a struggle. Like there's units I really want, and that's the hard thing too. Like that's that balance of the pay to win aspect. Like okay, I'm not spending hundreds thousands of dollars. Like I'm not about to do that. Like
Mm-hmm.
so I'm still missing a lot of stuff. Yeah, I get a decent number of pools, but I'm not gonna have everything. Like I'm not as lucky with the legendary lures. I have no legendary lures at this point.
That's crazy.
Whereas yeah, some free to play have a legendary lure,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it's still that
I have a
imbalance.
friend
And
free to play, and he's like, "Hey, it's my first day. I pulled Morgan. Is that good?" And I was like, "Screw you, man. Screw you."
right.
But yeah, actually, that's such a cool way. I think we can wrap it up here. Let us know what you think,
Yeah.
guys, about all the things said. But let us know what you think about if you like us together, because we've talked about if we want to do kind of like a weekly or bi-weekly kind of podcast check-in kind of thing, which I know I'd be down for if you'd be down for Beard, and we'd love to know what you guys
Yeah,
think.
for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to wrap up. And I think that guys, make sure you do go check out Fastidious. All his stuff is going to be popping up through the video in the description. Subscribe to him, and I definitely have loved doing this collab. We had a video on his channel as well, where we're talking about the things that we love and hate about the game, kind of just going into those positive and negative aspects of the game. Trying to stay more positive, of course.
Absolutely.
And so definitely enjoyed that. We thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on both channels, please. We would appreciate it. And as always, stay tuned for the next video. Fasty, you want to go ahead and close us out?
Peace out, guys. I'll see you in the next one.